Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. Today, I am taking my new studio and I'm making it work for me. For those of you who've been following for a while, this studio has been 2 years in the building. I haven't quite paid for it yet, but I'm going to send another chunk of money off to the builders today. So I'm very nearly done. It was so expensive, I had to borrow money from my family. But we're nearly there, nearly paid off. Anyway, now I'm in here and I'm seeing how it works. And I had last week my first visitors to the studio. I had people for a garden tour. It was lovely, poured with rain. They were very hardy types. They didn't melt in the rain, they didn't dissolve, but we did have to stand around in the rain a lot outside. And I began to see where this space works and doesn't work for when having people here. I had it working very nicely, just me, but no man is an island, nor is any flower farmer. So I'm going to rearrange it today to work better for my students, and I'll show you how it goes. We've always had lots of students here over the years, and it's one of those things that I hope most people look at how their student experience has gone over a season and adjust it for the following year to make it better, not just for the students, but also for the teacher. You've got to make sure that your workshops work for you. I feel like I'm Donald Trump. Anyway, feel like they work for you as well as for your students. What are they for? Why are you doing them? Can you make it more efficient? Anyway, one of the ways that we're making it more efficient is that next year, 2025, we are only holding 2 3-day workshops altogether. One of them will be flower farming intensive and one of them will be my floral retreat. We're going to have 1 career change flower farming workshop here next year only, and 1 garden tour day. Because it's quite exhausting in a good way. But unless this is what you do every day of the week, this isn't permanently a classroom, this is my workspace. And so it takes quite a lot of rearranging and stuff. So I figured, let's really push the boat out for a few days next year. And so I'm going to make this room really, really work. So I've got students 3 days next week, starting tomorrow, 3 days starting tomorrow. Then I've got a career change day, and then I've got a flower farming intensive, and then I repeat that once in 2025. So I've got to make it really great. So I'm going to have a look at this space, which has worked very nicely for me, but not so brilliant when there were other people here, and make it better. And I hope you enjoy the clip, and I'll talk a little bit about holding workshops and the sorts of things that I have to think. And if you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Please do subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll let you know when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks we give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club. The club is where all the fun is. Anyway, on we go. Oh, the links for coffee buying and club membership are in the blurb to all my clips. So it's 2 days later, and you can see that the studio has been full of students doing lots of lovely work. We've done a tablescaping workshop today, and the reason the flowers are no longer on the table is the ones that were there have been taken home by the student. But equally, some of the students are coming back tomorrow, and so, for example, this piece is still here, and it works really well here for photography. I've been looking for spots in the studio where the light's good for photography. It's not like my old studio, so this is a learning curve that we're going through here. But I like this spot because I like all the straight lines. You can see the edge of the shelf and the vases there give you a bit of perspective. And if you draw back, there are a lot of very nice straight lines. I like a lot of straight lines. And I think they work with the floristry because the floristry has no straight lines. So the contrast is really effective, but it also gives the floristry some perspective. I should try with my cinematic. I'm going to try this as a cinematic shot. Oh yes, very romantic. Loving that. These on the left, those are the floret zinnias, and the dahlia in the middle is one of my great faves. It's called Hootenanny. So you can see as I pan around, what I need for studio, for workshop space, is lots of room for everybody's flower material, room for the work to be done, and room for the display to be made at the end. So what I did was I moved this tall piece of furniture, which was a great favourite of mine in my old studio. I love this piece of furniture. I'm telling you now, it doesn't work in here. It's got to go. It's too tall. I've got a much lower ceiling, and it's too wide. This is a much smaller room. This is about half the size of my old studio, and it's overwhelming the space. So it's going to go. So I moved up here to the new studio for lots of reasons. And one of them was that my old studio was a kind of a corridor. It was enormous barn space, very lucky me, but it wasn't mine exclusively, and everybody used to use it as a dumping ground. So I would leave it ready for a workshop or something and go back in the morning and find that somebody had upended their bicycle onto the table and started taking it apart. And I had 6 people coming to a workshop. So it's very nice to be up here. This picture, this is what this barn looked like there. And it was like that for 20 years when we lived here. Well, no, not quite 20, maybe 17 years before we got planning permission to turn it into the studio. And it was just sitting there like a ruin in the field. We planted, so the flower farm is in this space here. So everything that you see on my clips has been planted by us in the past 20 years. It's very reassuring that you can grow so much, 100-foot tall trees, a wood in 20 years. It does happen, a wildflower meadow. And so I always had my eye on this ruin in the field to be my studio. But I was in my old studio, I think maybe 10 years. I've no idea. Probably about 10 years. And I was very comfortable with the space. I always had issues with the lighting, which is why all the photographs were of my flowers against the shelfie. So I've brought my shelfie up with me. Here, I moved the thing round. So that's the shelfie that used to be bigger, and it used to be on top of this piece of furniture, which we call the waste not, want not, because I'll show you. This piece of furniture has waste not, want not written on the drawer, and in sort of Gothic writing. And it's a really lovely bit of furniture. We found it in an antique shop in Melrose, just in Scotland. And I think it had been in a bicycle shop. It was the drawers were full of bicycle mending bits and pieces. And so the waste not, want not used to have the shelfie above it. And my ceiling was much higher in the other studio. This is much better to have a lower ceiling because it's going to be warmer in the winter. But I'm still getting used to the light. These windows face south, which is why I kept them shallow, because this is a flower studio. I don't want it to get too hot in here. And they face a hedge, which we planted, which is taller than the windows and keeps it, so we don't have too much direct light in here. But I've still got to find the right place to put things down and see the photographs. And now that I've had 2 days, and I've got one more day tomorrow of students here, I see really how this space works. And this one, not in here. I need this but smaller. I quite like the fact that it is the height of the kitchen level, can you see the sink on the other side? So I've got to kind of a sink for washing up the buckets and filling up vases. I've got a dishwasher for the vases and the jars and stuff. So I'd like a sideboard, a narrow, small piece of furniture. This is too big, so it's going to go. We kept sort of kind of crashing into it. It's proportionally way too big for in here. So that's going to go. But I do like, otherwise, what I've learned over the last couple of days is that actually this table I'm going to put the floristry back on because I'm going to get the hootenannies and you'll see how it looks. I should really have some people around for dinner now, shouldn't I? This table is good, really in the middle of the room. People need quite a lot of space to do their floristry. The table hasn't been laid all day. People have been using it as their work surfaces. And so there were 4 people working around the table and there was plenty of room. And I don't have enormous workshops. I don't like having too many people at once. I like having a small group so that I feel that everybody's really getting all that attention and we're solving individual people's problems. We're answering individual people's questions. The smaller the group, down to the one-to-ones, which I love doing, my mentoring sessions, I really, really enjoy because I don't arrive with all the answers, but I arrive with some really good questions. And sometimes hopefully those questions start a conversation which ends up with problems being solved. So that's what I do at my workshops. We do creative problem solving with flowers. Oh, I've had a lovely day. Anyway, so this room, I now realise how this room is going to work. And so proportionally, that piece of furniture's got to go. This table stays in the middle and is in the middle all day. I'm going to find myself a narrow, tall, something actually, here's a thought. Who would have thought, oh my goodness, this may happen. So this piece of furniture, I love, the waste not want not. I might turn it round and have it so that it hides the workings of the base of the sink and the dishwasher, and you've got the cupboard and the drawers facing this way. Oh yes, I feel the hair standing up on my head. And then I will need something here, but gets better. I've realised that something I did, I've got all the ceilings are, the lighting or spots and I put them so that I thought they would light students as they worked, and of course they're in the wrong place, not in a bad way, but for directional photography they're not in the right place. I may end up putting some proper lights, like theatrical lights, just along the top there, along there, and pointing them at this blank wall. If I move the waste not want not, I've got more blank wall to photograph against. But I could also have, I like to have things that I can move around. If I have a table or something that I can move quickly and put underneath one of these spotlights here, then even if I'm photographing against and there's daylight bleaching things out, I can add a little bulb above. Anyway, versatility is what I need, and having taught in here now for 2 of my 3-day floral retreat workshop. I know that this big thing is going to go, and this room is slowly coming together. I know some people have commented about the sound, and I'm glad to say that I have found my microphones, which I'm very naughty and lazy, and I know I don't always have them, but I've got a new system up here because it's my space. I'm not sharing it with anyone. When I take them off, I plug them in and I leave them plugged in, and I know where they are, and no one's stealing the pluggy bits to plug into their speaker in their bedroom or something. So that's important. But I know some of the sound in here, it can be a bit echoey, especially Tea Cake's in here barking. She's not today. So I'm going to get myself a comfy chair, an armchair, which A, will hopefully look attractive, but also will absorb a lot of noise. It'll be like having, not quite lining the walls with mattresses, but you know, it'll certainly help with the slightly echoey sound. Anyway, there you are. That's how I lay myself out for workshops. When I have got a workshop coming up in the new year, in January. So we haven't launched the workshops for 2025 yet, but we will be in the next week or so, towards the beginning of October. So do look out. It's October 2024. Look out for our workshops. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, sign up for the newsletter, because that's where the news will be first. And if you're a member of my club, then I think you will get even more notice. And we've rearranged things a little bit for next year. But I will still need, you always need, your urn for keeping your water hot, so that people can have cups of tea all day. Having a kettle is very boring. You have to quickly refill it all the time, and you're trying to teach people, and there's kettle boiling, and much easier to have an urn. But you need somewhere clean and immaculate, which is why I have the wipe down tablecloth. It's clean and immaculate for hot drinks. And you need a surface where there's only hot drinks. So that's why you can hear the boil. I'm going to turn it off actually. My students have gone home, so I don't need my boiler boiling anymore, but I have made myself a cup of tea. So you need somewhere that you can have any foodie stuff away, particularly if you've got plant material. So no plant material goes on that table. But I don't need something so big. But this room is slowly coming together. It's not there yet. But I'm glad to say that we have had plenty of space to make our floristry today and yesterday. And it's worked really nicely. And I'm just surprised, actually, that this is going. I've loved it for years. Goodbye, piece of furniture. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this clip and found it useful. There is a workshop coming up, how to hold workshops, the things to think about, working out your timings, working out what you're going to teach, working out how much help people need or how much you need to give them to yourself, work out how long the day needs to be, insurance, all that sort of stuff we cover in my workshop, and I'm holding it once next year in January. So look out for that on the website, sign up to the newsletter, and you'll get told when the workshop listings are up. And equally, if you want to come and do a 3-day floristry retreat, I've scheduled it for next June, and that too will be launched in early October. So thanks very much for joining me, and I'll see you very soon.